Hey everybody, welcome back to the channel. This is Jennifer for the Median, and today we are in Mazda's CX-50, not the CX-5. That's Mazda's most successful car in North America, and in fact the world. It's their best-selling vehicle. But the CX-50 is unique to America. In fact, it's Mazda's first vehicle built in North America. So what exactly is the CX-50? Like the Mazda CX-30, built off of that platform, it's sort of a bridge between models. And this CX-50 sits a little bit higher than the CX-5. It's a little bit longer, so there's a lot of storage space in the cargo area. So the suspension is set up a little bit differently as well, as this is meant to be more of a, I wouldn't say off-roader, but soft-roader. Gravel roads, hills, good approach and departure angles. So there's a McPherson strut suspension up front with a stabilizer bar. In the back, it's a torsion beam suspension. Interestingly, this is also a torsion beam rear with all-wheel drive, which sounds kind of simple, but with the torsion beam and all-wheel drive shaft going across there, like you'd think they'd knock into each other. But Mazda engineers figured that out, and the beam goes up and over the drive shaft, and so you have all-wheel drive in a vehicle with torsion beam rear. So the CX-50 is available in like 10 different iterations, but what it really boils down to is engine choice and what options you want. So all CX-50s get Mazda's Skyactiv G 2.5 liter 4-cylinder, and you can get that either in a naturally aspirated version or, like this car, the turbocharged version. The naturally aspirated model has 187 horsepower and 186 pound-feet of torque. All-wheel drive. That's standard across the board for the CX-50. The turbo gets 227 horsepower and 310 pound-feet of torque. Unless you put 93 octane in which case you're going to go up to 256 horsepower and 320 pound-feet of torque. All of them get a 6-speed automatic with paddle shifters. So all CX-50s come standard with Mazda's iActive all-wheel drive. And that's a pretty smart all-wheel drive system. It reads your steering angle, your steering inputs, your throttle inputs. In fact, it even reads the weather to help apply torque to the front or rear as needed. Also is Mazda's Intelligent Drive Select, or MiDrive, MI-Drive. Towing capacity in the CX-50 naturally aspirated is 2,000 pounds. You step up to the turbo models and you can tow 3,500 pounds. So yeah, that's what the CX-50 is. Let's see how it drives. So I'm pretty sure one of the first things anybody would notice if they take out a Mazda CX-50 for a test drive is the steering. It's heavy. It's good. It's direct, but it's heavy. I actually took this vehicle down to Chicago and back, which is about a 6-hour round trip. And you know, I like to, when you're cruising down the highway, put some cruise control on and just leave your hand on the wheel, maybe down here, maybe up here, you know, one-handed driving. And this part of my hand and my forearm actually got tired from this steering, which is very interesting. The ride is well composed, but it is a little rough, especially over rough surfaces. When you go over those rough roads, it stays well composed. It's just a lot of movement. The other thing I noticed over my last week with this vehicle is that it's pretty loud in here. I'm going 50 miles an hour right now, and it's kind of loud. This is a pretty smooth road, but it's loud. What's really interesting to me about the CX-50 is the harder you push it, the better it gets. The Mazda CX-50 is quite well equipped. You've got Mazda's safety stuff going up the wazoo, cross traffic and pedestrian and all the things. The CX-50 does have lane keep assist, and some of these systems do a great job of keeping you centered and sort of helping you. This is more a ping pong system. So If I come over here over double yellow, it's kind of pushing me back over this way. And then I come back over here against this white line, and I'm just going to go off the road. And it'll push back. If it's sensing the line, it'll push back on that line and kind of keep you ping-ponging between the lane. There's also Distronic Cruise or radar cruise control, that keeps a certain distance between the car in front of you. Coming back from Chicago, I was driving through rain, and the system actually spazzed out and would speed up and slow down and speed up and slow down. And I'm pretty sure that it's just having a hard time reading things in those weather conditions. On the plus side, the blind spot monitoring is probably one of the brightest lights I've ever seen on a blind side thing on the mirror. When that thing lights up, there's a car there. It's very, very clear. It does have Apple CarPlay, Android Auto, which turns this screen here in the middle into a touch screen when you're stopped. Like right now, I can't touch this thing. I can touch it, but it isn't going to do anything. But when I come up to a stop sign here, now it's a touchscreen, but it's only a touchscreen for the Apple stuff or Android stuff. I'm sliding that, and that doesn't work. You got your little Mazda knob down here, which does, and you push it back into CarPlay, and I can do, a touchscreen here until I start moving, in which point, nope, not anymore. Some other interesting things on the CX-50 that I have found over my time is that the seat is not overly comfortable. There's not a lot of thigh support, and in fact, I'm a tall person, but I'm not a very broad person. I don't fit in this seat. I'm sort of sitting on top of the side bolsters here, and the back is definitely pushing my upper body forward. So these are not my favorite seats in the world. You've got room for 2 cup holders. There's a rubber mat up here and a rubber mat back here. In this particular model, there is not wireless charging, but there is charging in the armrest, which is a split armrest. There's, each side opens up on its own, independent, which is kind of nice. And there's actually, unlike most manufacturers, a little cutout to send your cable through to plug in your phone, which is very smart. The rear doors open up whoosh, all the way. It was like 90 degrees, which is really nice. Makes ingress and egress from the rear very easy. Plenty of room in the back. The front doors don't open all the way to a 90 degree, maybe 50 degrees, and they tend to fall back in. So you might open the door when you get home and you're stepping out and the door comes back and closes on your leg. That's sort of been a consistent theme throughout my week with this vehicle. When you lay the seats down, however, the back seats have a nice seatbelt holder, so it's always right there for you over your shoulder. And if you lay the seats down with that in its place, you have this seatbelt stretched across the entry point on the back door. So you kind of have to slide those out to lay the seats down flat and not have anything intruding. So let's talk about my drive. The Mazda intelligent driving system here. There's just a little button, a little switch actually here on the center console. And I've got normal, off-road, and sport. If we go up into sport, and throttle response is better. Quicker, at least. And it will hold the gears longer before shifting, but it doesn't change the suspension. I think it changes steering. I couldn't find anything in Mazda's press materials, and I reached out to Mazda and they didn't get back to me whether it changes the steering ratio at all, makes it a little more aggressive. It feels like maybe a titch difference, but not a lot. I don't really feel the need for sport mode in the CX-50. Normal is just fine. Off-road is good because it really thinks about where it's sending power to the all-wheel drive system. The particular CX-50 that we have this week is a Meridian Edition, which is like the off-roadiest of the off-road CX-50. You get special unique wheels, all-terrain tires, and some graphics packages. And apparently, according to Mazda, there's a catalog of off-road type aftermarket accessories available for the Meridian Edition as well. Big roof rack over this awesome panoramic roof. Thank you, Mazda, for doing that. That makes this whole cabin feel super light and spacious. This particular CX-50 Meridian Edition is in Zircon Sand Metallic, which is a really cool color. Sort of a rough and tumble off-road looking color. And the Meridian Edition comes standard with this terracotta interior, which is quite attractive to look at. And of course, the CX-50 has all of Mazda's great sound effects. That seatbelt sound, for example. When you have the turn signals on, if there's two lanes turning left, for example, and you're in the right lane turning left, and there's another car next to you, and you've got your left turn signal on, it does some like awesome video game sounds to let you know there's a car over there. Mazda's sounds and chimes in the cabin are quite unique, and they can be either annoying, or you can just roll with it and say these are really fun. This 2.5 liter turbocharged Skyactiv G engine is actually very torquey. 310 pound-feet of torque, unless you're at 93 octane, you get 320 pound-feet of torque. And it's a strong engine. And it sounds pretty good. And it feels good. The CX-50 feels hefty. It feels substantial. I do wish that the rough ride was a little smoother. I do wish the steering was a little lighter, and I would like the whole overall package a little better if that were the case. But the be-all end-all is, it's a really nice vehicle. And you can get into a CX-50 with standard all-wheel drive and a lot of the stuff that's on this one in the upper 20s. So spec'd out in a mid-grade package, you're going to be in the mid-30s for something that feels more upmarket than a mid-30s vehicle should. This one is just under $42,000, this Meridian Edition. But this is just a good, solid proposition from Mazda, and it's something a little different. It still provides some of the fun driving dynamics of a typical Mazda vehicle. And as I mentioned, the harder you push this thing, the better it gets. And that's saying something in a mid-size crossover SUV type vehicle. So, interesting stuff, this CX-50. If you need room for four and your stuff, and you want to sit up tall, maybe go a little soft-roading, you go camping, whatever, check out the CX-50. It's different, and that's what makes it special.